Okay, so what I want to do is I want to show you a couple tips and tricks for recording with Camtasia. And I just kind of want to walk you through the process that I use when I'm making a video. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Camtasia. And so I've got it open and I'm going to start a new project. So File, New Project. And it's going to pull up this screen right here. And to begin recording, I'm going to press on this this red recording dot that opens my recording window here. And you see I've got some options. This where my screen is pointing, or sorry, where my arrow is pointing is my screen option. And I can record full screen, partial screen. There's an iPad window, an iPhone option. I typically record my entire screen, and I'll show you why I do that later, but I do it because I'll edit out what part of my screen is visible in the Camtasia editing process, and by recording my full screen, I'm giving myself the maximum amount of screen to play with later. So I'll click on full screen, and then this is my mic options here, and I've got my input mic, just the built-in mic with my laptop. And then I've got my USB microphone plugged in, so I'll click on that option. That's what I want to record. And I'll press record. And you'll see it'll give me a countdown, and I've got Command-Shift-2 to pause or stop recording. But now I'm recording, and I'm in the Sketchbook program. And so I'm going to record my audio and video at the same time. I'm not going to record my video and then dub it over with a script. I'm going to record it at the same time, but unlike Sal, I can't always talk and write at the same time conversationally. Sometimes that messes me up, especially when I'm writing a lot. So I'll show you kind of how I do that. First, I'm going to say what I want to write, and I'm not going to be writing when I say that. So say I want to write an equation. And let's say the equation that I want to write is nitric oxide and hydrogen gas reacting together to form nitrogen gas and water vapor. I should probably balance this chemical equation, so let me switch colors and I'll balance it out. In our products we have two of our nitrogen, and so I need to add a 2 in front of our nitrogen for our reactants. That'll give me 2 oxygens over here, so on my right side I need to add a 2 in front of the water vapor, and then that gives me 4 hydrogens as my product. And so I come back here and I add another 2 to my reactant hydrogen gas, and that gives me a balanced equation. And you can see what I did is I would say something. So I'd say nitric oxide and hydrogen gas are going to react together. Then I'd be silent while I wrote, and then I would say something else like they're forming nitrogen gas and water vapor, and then I would be silent again as I write. And I did that because what I'm about to do is I'm about to divorce the audio and the video, and I'm about to just edit out the part where I was silent and kind of overlap the video so that it looks like I'm writing while I'm talking. And I'll show you how I do that here in a second. Okay, so after I have finished recording, so I hit Command-Shift-2 to stop the recording. It'll give me kind of a pause or a complete option, and I hit complete. It brings me up to this editing window. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to import the AAMC. Well, I guess it won't be AAMC for you, but I'm going to import the bumper that I use in this video, and I'll explain why later. But it's really important that I start by importing that bumper. So I'm going to hit File, Import Media, and I'm going to type my AMC bumper. So I'm going to import this, and I'm going to move my recording strip down some. You can just click and move it. I'm going to make some room for this AAMC bumper right here. And so I click on this AAMC bumper, and let me kind of move my playhead to it. I click on that, and I'm going to make it full screen. And now that's going to run for the first second or so of my video. See, let play here. And shift 2 to... So it just kind of played that bumper at first. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divorce the video from the audio. So I'm going to hit, and keep in mind that I'm doing all of this with a Mac. So I'm going to hit Control and click. That kind of gives me a right click option. And I'm going to separate the audio and video. And I clicked on the actual recording strip. So Control, click on the audio strip, separate audio and video. So now my audio and video are separated, and I can edit them independently from each other. Now I'm going to hit Video Effects up here in the top left part of my screen, and I'm going to apply clip speed. So I'm going to click and drag clip speed onto the video. And you'll see why I do that again in a minute. I'm sorry I'm having to say that so much, but I promise it kind of comes together to make sense. And so if you remember in the recording, I said that I was speaking, or I would say what I was going to write, and then I'd be silent while I wrote. And you can see right here that gives me this audio gap. And so if I move the playhead cursor, you can see that I'm writing right here, but there's no audio. That's kind of where I was silent. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you kind of where I set up what I was going to say. So let me pull something out. Is nitric oxide and hydrogen gas. Okay, so that's kind of where I started talking. So I'm going to again Control click, and I'm going to do that on that actual playhead cursor, this triangle. So I'm going to Control click, and I'm going to put split all at playhead. So I'm going to split the audio and the video right there. And now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to show you where I repeated what I was writing. So being or reacting together to form nitrogen gas and water. So that's kind of where I continue that thought. So I'm going to split it right here in the middle also. I'm going to put split all at playhead again. Now you can see this region right here where I was speaking. I wasn't writing anything, so I'm going to move the playhead over until I start writing, and it's about right there. So I'm going to back it up a bit, and I'm going to click and hold Shift. So click and hold Shift just on the video part here. I'm going to highlight this area all the way to that line, and it kind of stops conveniently at that line for you. And I'm going to hit Control again, Control and click, so a right click if you've got a regular mouse. And I'm going to put Delete Range. So I selected Delete Range. Now I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to notice when I stopped writing again, so about right there, and I kind of wait until my cursor up there is still. So about right there, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to highlight this part of the video line, and I'm going to again delete that. Now I'm going to move it over, and I'm just clicking and dragging. I'm going to move that over, and I'm going to click down here on this. There's kind of an arrow down here. I'm going to click on that, and it'll show me my clip speed effect. If I hold my cursor over this clock, I can click and I can just slide that over, and this is increasing the video clip speed. And you can increase it to right around 150, kind of anywhere between 140 and 170 or so. But I usually try to stick with 150, and it'll still look very natural. So now I'm going to shift and drag and delete a section of my my audio, all this gap where I wasn't writing. And so I'm going to Shift and again kind of do that right click function, so Control click, and this time I'm going to ripple delete. And when I ripple delete, it slides it down automatically and it stitches that media back together. And now I'm just going to, again, click on this clip speed effect, and I'm going to move the clock over until it lines up, and it gives you a nice little yellow lineup line. And I've made it 167, but I know from experience that that will still look pretty natural. And so now I'm going to show you what that did. Is nitric oxide and hydrogen gas being or reacting together to form nitrogen gas and so you can see that it made it look like I was writing while I was talking, even though I explicitly wasn't during the recording process. It gives it that nice conversational feel with very little editing. Now I'm going to show you it one more time, a little bit faster for the second part, because again I was silent while I wrote the second part of the reaction. So I was talking during this part, and then I kind of repeated what I was saying right here. I should probably balance this chemical equation. Okay, so I guess I didn't repeat it. Sometimes it's nice to say it one more time, because sometimes while you're writing, you say the word that you're writing. So you can kind of reiterate it at the end, and that will be the part that overlaps over the time that you're writing visually. I didn't do that. That's okay. But I usually kind of tail into a little bit the next part of what I was saying, so I'll split it right here. Sorry, I know this is confusing, but it makes sense if you kind of watch this video while you're actually playing with yours. And this is where my cursor starts moving, so I back it up just a little bit because I don't want my cursor jumping around all over the place. And I'll delete that section. Sorry for the background noise. I think they're towing a car outside my window. And you can see up here my cursor stopped again, right about there. And so I'll delete this section of my video. And I'm going to increase my clip speed to about 150 to give myself some like a kind of working reference. I'm going to delete as much audio as I can. So I'm going to ripple delete that. Remember, I was just straight deleting the video portion because I'm kind of sliding it back and forth myself, but the audio I'll ripple delete and it'll stitch it back together automatically. And then I'm going to slide this over, and again I'm at 162, but that's okay, it'll look pretty natural. So, and then I kind of slide this down to match. And so I'm going to go back and I'm going to play it from the beginning to show you what it looks and sounds like. Is nitric oxide and hydrogen gas being or reacting together to form nitrogen gas and water vapor. I should probably balance this chemical equation, so let me switch colors and I'll balance it out. So I don't know, that's just kind of a neat effect. It makes it look like you're writing and speaking at the same time with just kind of a couple simple clicks in the editing process. And what I found is this allows me to make fewer mistakes during the recording part, and I get a lot less frustrated this way. Now, I want to go back and explain why I put that bumper in when I did, because I had to pull the video part down to make room for the bumper. I had to pull the video and the audio down, and now that I've split it up a whole bunch, I would have to move all of these independently to make room for that AAMC bumper. So by doing it at the beginning, I'm able to move a whole lot less. You can imagine for about a 7 or 8 minute video, I have, sometimes 50 or so different little video clips from where I've spliced out different like pauses in my audio. And so it would take, it's just a headache to move all of them down independently when you can just set yourself up for success by putting that bumper in at the beginning. So one last thing that I want to show you is adjusting the screen size. So if you click on the screen up here, remember we recorded the full screen, but in the editing part you can click and drag and everything that's in this window is what's going to be on YouTube. For example, all of this now that's kind of faded out won't be on YouTube anymore. So now I can just click and select what part of the screen I want in the editing process. But by recording the full screen, I gave myself as many options as possible. And you can do some neat stuff, like maybe the only other effect that I use consistently, I go to animations and I go smart focus at time. And I know Rishi uses this quite a bit, but this gives me like a zooming effect. And so say I started here and I want to end up even more zoomed in, then after the arrow I set the placement again. I do this anywhere after the arrow. I click on this video segment, and so I wanted it even more zoomed in. Let's say I want it like obnoxiously zoomed in, so I can't even fit all this in the screen. But now when I play through, it gives me a nice zoom. Again, you're going to want to think proactively about where you're going to place these, because every time you separate the video, it starts a new clip. And so right here, this is where I adjusted the screen size to begin with, and this is where I zoomed in. If I have this this zoom in effect placed before I separate the video, then the future video over here, so let me just show you what I mean. So I'll separate the video again. Now this future video lines up okay. It doesn't like revert back to the original, but if I were to like move, let me kind of click on this video clip right here. If I were to move this video, it wouldn't move. You see how it changed right here at the video break? It didn't apply it retroactively. It only applies it proactively. So it's very similar to the bumper concept. You want to set up your video ahead of time each time where you want captured. So another thing you can do is before you start editing the video, go here and set the part of the screen that you want initially, and then you can just adjust as you move forward. But those are just a couple tips and tricks for how I make these videos.